notice in recent times, you notice where not only the tariffs, but also trades and different way of operating farms have struck a lot of American farmers, and they're struggling real bad. A lot of American farmers are lashing out. I mean, soybean farmers, cattle farmers, whether it's cash crop like watermelon, sweet pepper farmers, whatever farmers, okay? They're struggling, and they're struggling very hard. A lot of farmers in the United States are now realizing that their support for the MAGA regime, right, is turning around to bite them in the ass, okay? And it's bad enough that farming is down bad in many different areas, okay? And especially as it relates to those farmers who do a lot of export because they're losing their market and it's sliding real fast. These farmers are down bad. Now, they were tricked by Donald Trump into voting for him, right? They supported him and passed bill. Now they cannot get funding to fund their businesses. Okay, they can't get assistance from the government. Not only that, the MAGA regime has enacted different tariffs, a lot of different tariffs on export and imports throughout the United States, right, to other countries. So, with those tariffs, other countries who traded with US farmers, right, and accepted their products, whether it's soybean or whatever it is, they're, those customers are now looking towards different countries for supply their market. You understand? Because they cannot deal with the back and forth and the up and down with the U.S. tariff and policies. Okay? Now, these guys are now saying that they don't know what to do. And a lot of them, some probably already lost their farms, but a lot of them who have had their farms for a lot of years, 20, 30, some are third generation, fourth generation farmers, are now looking forward to go belly up, meaning that they will go bankrupt because they can't do anything with their soybeans. A lot of them have the soybeans in storage on their farms. They're running out of storage space, okay, and they don't know what to do with it, right? Now, you just got to look at this in simple layman terms. Simple layman terms. It's not a topic that you have to be complicated with, right? Or get complicated about. If you look at the big picture, remember, farming is a business that's a lot of things surround farming, and a lot of feeder businesses feed into farming. We're speaking about trucking, feeds into farming. Okay, we're talking about farm workers that feeds into farming. Everything that covers trucking, like tire factories, this, that, whatever, gasoline, just to name a few. Fertilizers that you spray for crops, or even if you rear animals as a farmer, because there's also farmers that rear animals, and some farmers plant crops, and some farmers do both. So if you're a dairy farmer, a milk farmer, whatever it is, these tariffs are impacting you in real time. And guess what? The farmers in the United States who export goods are hurting the most. There's some farmers that sell locally, right? The ones who sell locally in the United States, they're impacted by the high inflation and different things like that. But the ones who export, right, they're suffering the most. And when they lose their markets, their overseas markets, and they lose their overseas customers, guess what? Those customers are not going to come back and buy those products, those farm products that were raised and grew here in the United States. Because guess what? If you're a customer and you find a cheaper source to provide you the same product, probably better quality product, what will you do? Come back to a more expensive market, or you'll rather go back to the cheap market that you discovered? You get what I'm saying? because you got to look at it for what it is. A lot of these customers that bought from U.S. farmers, they could have went to different countries years ago. You get what I'm saying? But to keep a good relationship with the United States, to keep fair trade going, right, and keep building that relationship with different countries across the world, different farmers, they traded and did business in the USA, but they didn't have to do it. You understand what I'm saying? So what Donald Trump and the MAGA regime is currently doing is impacting these farmers very bad. Now, there's no certainty what their trade will be tomorrow. If you, depending on what country in the world these farmers are from or these customers are from, they could wake up one day and the tariffs are at 50%. The next day they wake up, the tariffs are at 65%. You get what I'm saying? So it's very unstable. And if they're doing business, there's no way you could predict this instability, right? For your products that you want to buy. How are you gonna gauge the market price? That's gonna confuse your consumers, like your customers that buy these products that are exported to different countries. So these tariff prices, either one, those people who are buying those products would have to suck it up and, like Trump said, eat the tariffs. I think that's what he told the Walmart CEO or something like that. They would have to eat the tariff, or they would have to jack up the price for their consumers, right? Which, of course, as a consumer myself, I would not do that, right? So these are a lot of different areas that, as far as the tariffs are affecting the United States farmers. You get what I'm saying? And the thing I do know to be true is that a lot of these farmers, their lands will be bought up by billionaires. It will be bought up by billionaires, because you got to think, if you're producing, you're not selling, you're going to stop production. That means a lot of farms already probably cut staff. They have to cut staff because their overhead is becoming pointless. Like they have an overhead for no reason, right? So they have a cost of production. They have to stop production, stop planting, stop doing everything. So they're at a halt because they have no idea what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. So they're pretty much riding in the wind and just moving along like a tumbleweed. You get what I'm saying? And this is as a direct result of Donald Trump and his MAGA regime and their policies with regards to tariff and stuff like that. Okay, so it's rolling down the hill. Now, the U.S. imports a lot of different things from different countries across the world. A lot of things are imported to the United States. You dig what I'm saying? The lands that these farmers have, most of them, if you do research and you listen to these farmers, you realize that a lot of these lands have been passed down through generations. Okay, that means it's probably owned by their granddad, passed down to their dad, their great granddad, whatever the case is, right? How is it going to be now that because of what they supported, and that's what's going to happen, because of their support for Donald Trump, not all of them did, but a lot of them did so, and they said it, because they were duped and they got tricked and thought he was a good businessman. But in my view, from looking at Donald Trump and how he operates, he's a good businessman for himself. Okay, he's not a good businessman for other people. You understand? And you could just look at the record and look how he operates and look how he does things. And you'll see for yourself that this guy is extremely selfish. He does things to profit him and his friends. I mean, you could look at what he did to Elon Musk. You understand? Look what he did to Elon Musk. Elon Musk paid millions of dollars to help Donald Trump to win the general election 2024. Right? It's not a secret. And as soon as 2025 came around, he just kind of fired Elon Musk. You understand what I'm saying? So if he could do that to a person who helped him to win an election, what do you think he care about a farmer who's all the way in the Midwest, down south, or wherever, upper Northwest, Seattle, wherever you do farming at? What do you think he care about those people he'd never met, who has never done anything really for him, personally, or any life-changing thing for him? He doesn't care. You understand? He doesn't care about these farmers. Right? So Most of these farmers, when they go bankrupt, they will never return to farming. It's impossible because they don't have the funding to do so. And of course, billionaires, which most of them are probably friends of Donald Trump, will purchase these lands. That's what it's going to come down to. A lot of these billionaires, they're just on standby doing the hand rub like so, and they're getting ready to purchase these lands. They see what's happening. You understand? And it's like it's like they had this whole thing planned out. I don't know that they did, but to me, that's how it looks to me. To me, it looks like they had this whole thing planned out and be like, okay, we need some land. How are we going to get it? Okay, let's just get the support of farmers, and then we're going to enact bills like the big beautiful bill, all types of bullshit. We're going to do the tariff thing and force them to be bankrupt, and then we'll purchase the land. That's how it looks to me. It looks like a direct dope. They got dope into their lands being in jeopardy, and eventually will get sold or auctioned off or whatever the case is. Okay. Now, in the midst of what you can obviously see that is a recession in the United States, it couldn't be a worse time. On top of what we're now in the third week of our government shutdown, that's what we're currently in, right? Now you can imagine that the holidays are upon us. You're talking about Thanksgiving, you're talking about Christmas holiday, all these things, right? And lo and behold, I come to find out, right, that there's some people who have to go to work, and I found this out on TikTok. There's some people that have to still go to work because they're considered essential government employees. However, they're not getting paid. Okay, that's happening in America in real time. There are people who are considered essential government employees. They still have to go to work because they're considered essential government employees, and they're not getting paid until the government shutdown is over. So you got to add all these things into things that will affect these farmers. You get what I'm saying? The government shutdown is going to impact these farmers directly, right? And even more so now that the holidays are closing in. Remember, once the holidays starts to close in, very few people are doing certain types of businesses, okay? On top of that, you got the fall and the winter season keep coming in, right? So if these farmers reap their crops, right, and they could not sell it, especially those that grow in the summertime, they reap their crops, right? They can't sell it. They have it in storage somewhere, maybe in a silo somewhere sitting with soybeans or whatever, okay? Now, the winter time is going to come upon those crops. It's going to sit there. They lost their market. You understand? Now, they probably have to renegotiate deals. If they get a deal, they'll probably have to renegotiate with different customers, try to fish for customers who will buy their soybean or whatever the case is. It's just a uphill battle and a struggle. You get what I'm saying? But take this as a learning lesson. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm telling you this. Billionaires only look out for billionaires. You understand? That's it. They care nothing about you and what you're doing. Okay? A lot of politicians try to tell people this in layman terms. You like the best way to push this information out is in layman terms. It doesn't have to be no statistical numbers. It doesn't have to be this. It just look at it in layman terms so a baby can understand. And this is the way a lot of politicians try to tell people, look, this guy is a scam. He's going to mess you up. These are the things that he's going to do. Guess what people did? They just brushed it off. Okay, so now we're here. You understand what I'm saying? In my mind, American farmers being in jeopardy is extremely dangerous. On top of that, because the tariffs are affecting the ports, right? If the farmers can't sell their food and the tariffs are affecting the ports, you got to think, how are you going to get food? And the trucking industry is doing this number right here. Trucking is going down. The trucking in the United States, it's doing this. So you got to think, you need to eat. America does not produce as much as you think it does. There's more food gets imported into the United States than food is grown in the United States. You understand? So most of America's food is imported. So this is something you might want to take serious, think about, do some research, study up on it, pay attention to what's going on. Okay? That's it. So we're going to wrap this up. And like I said, the farmers, they're going to lose their lands. It's going to happen. It's a ripple effect of things coming down. They're going to lose their lands to Donald Trump's and his friends who are billionaires. Okay? Hope you learned something from that. Big muscle, always on the hustle. Remember to give the video a like. Share it with somebody who may find it interesting. And catch me in the next live. See you soon. Peace.